Good morning students. I welcome all of you in this session of English grammar. In the previous session, I explained how to study English as a subject as well as language. Today in this session, we are going to discuss one of the significant topics from English grammar. Actually, I am sure that all the students must have studied this topic in the previous classes like 8th class, 9th class and 10th class. I am also sure that many students must have attempted the sentences based on this topic in the previous classes. Still, some of the students find this topic little bit difficult at the time of examination. So today we are going to discuss one of the significant conjunctions, how to use that conjunction in the sentence, how to replace that conjunction with another conjunction available in English language. So the conjunction we are going to discuss in this session is, as soon as you must have studied this conjunction in the previous classes, you must have replaced this conjunction with another conjunction available in English language. But while replacing this conjunction with another conjunction, many students, out of 100 students, 80 students make mistakes. 80% students commit mistakes while transforming, while replacing this conjunction with another conjunction available in English language. So let us begin with how to replace as soon as with another conjunction available in English language. Students, I write a sentence, I explain the replacement of as soon as with another conjunction in English language with the help of sentence, with the help of example. I write a sentence on the board. Let us look at the board. As soon as the teacher entered the class, all the students greeted him. So let us look at this sentence. It's a very short and simple sentence. As soon as the teacher entered the class, all the students greeted him. So the sentence like this is given in the activity sheet, in the question paper, in the examination, and the students are asked to make this sentence negative. So the students are supposed to transform this affirmative positive sentence into a negative sentence. Actually, the sentences beginning with the conjunction as soon as is given the instruction like this, make it negative, and also the instruction like use no sooner than. So these two types of instructions can be given below the sentence that begins with the conjunction as soon as. So let me clarify to you that as soon as is a conjunction that is used to introduce the incident that will happen immediately after the previous incident has been completed. So the conjunction as soon as is used to indicate, to show cause and effect relationship, where one incident is followed by another incident. If you look at this sentence, here we have two clauses. The first clause is the teacher entered the class, and the second clause begins with the word all. The students greeted him. Look at this sentence carefully. This is affirmative sentence, this is positive sentence, and this sentence consists of two clauses. The first clause is the teacher entered the class, and the second clause is all the students greeted him. Now we are going to transform this sentence into negative sentence. So when we are asked to transform, to convert the affirmative sentence that begins with as soon as into negative sentence, so in that situation we have to replace as soon as with the phrase no sooner while converting, while transforming this sentence into negative sentence. So students, if the instruction like this is given, use no sooner ... then we will definitely begin this sentence with no sooner, and we are going to use than to connect, to join these two clauses in the place of comma. But when the instruction like this is given, make it negative, then the students face a lot of problem how to convert this affirmative sentence into negative sentence. So when the instruction like this is given to the sentence that begins with as soon as, the conjunction as soon as, then students are expected to begin that sentence with no sooner, and again we are going to use this word than to join these two clauses. Now I convert this affirmative sentence into negative sentence using the conjunction no sooner. Okay. So in the place of as soon as, I have written no sooner. But let me clarify one important, one significant point here where normally, generally students make mistake is that the sentence begins with as soon as, and this conjunction is immediately followed by the first clause, the teacher entered the class. But when we replace as soon as with no sooner, so at that time we cannot write the first clause as it is here. Then what should we do? If you look at this sentence, I explain the conjunction as soon as and no sooner than. The conjunction as soon as and no sooner, both the conjunctions are used to introduce the incident, the incident that will take place immediately after the previous incident has been completed. If you look at this sentence, in the first clause there is first incident, first event. The teacher is entering the class, the teacher entered the class, so this is the first incident in the first clause. And if you look at the second clause, all the students greeted him. So greeting to the teacher is the second incident that takes place immediately after this first incident. So in those situations we use the conjunctions like as soon as and no sooner. Okay, now we are going to transform this affirmative sentence into a negative sentence, or we are going to replace as soon as with no sooner. As I told you, when we replace this conjunction as soon as with no sooner, after no sooner, after the conjunction no sooner, we do not write first clause immediately. So what do we do? The conjunction no sooner is always followed by the auxiliary verb that is available in the first clause. Let me also clarify, while transforming this affirmative sentence into negative sentence, or while replacing the conjunction as soon as with no sooner, we do not make any change in the second clause. The second clause remains unchanged. We do not make any change in the second clause. So keep in your mind, while transforming this affirmative sentence into negative, or while replacing the conjunction as soon as with no sooner, we must not make a little bit change, any change in the second clause. It is continued as it is. Okay. But as I told you, the conjunction no sooner is always followed by auxiliary verb. So what is the next step? Find out the auxiliary verb available in the first clause. If you look at the first clause, the teacher entered the class. So apparently there is no auxiliary verb available in the first clause. The teacher entered the class. So when there is no apparent auxiliary verb in the first clause, then what should we do? Identify the tense of the first clause. And if you identify the tense, then you can find out the auxiliary verb to use after no sooner. The teacher entered the class. The tense of this sentence is simple past tense. The teacher is subject, entered is past form of the verb, we call it V2, the second form of the verb V2. There is no need to go further, because on the basis of the form of the verb we can identify the tense of the sentence. The teacher entered. The clause is from simple past tense, and everybody knows in simple past, when we frame WH question, when we make that sentence negative, when we transform that assertive sentence into verbal question, we use the auxiliary verb did. And that's why we are going to use the auxiliary verb did after the conjunction no sooner. So I write the conjunction did here. So let me make clear here. The conjunction no sooner is always often followed by auxiliary verb available in the first clause. I also clarified, if auxiliary verb is not available in the first clause, then the students need to identify the tense of the first clause. And if you succeed in identifying the tense of the first clause, so definitely I am sure that you will find out the auxiliary verb. I will also explain some more examples from simple present tense and simple past tense. I will also explain the sentence in which we have already auxiliary verb in the first clause. Okay. So I have written the auxiliary verb did. Why? Because the first clause is from simple past tense. When the clause is from simple past tense, we use did. Now write down the subject of the first clause. The teacher. No sooner did the teacher. Now let me clarify one significant point here. As I used the auxiliary verb did here after the conjunction no sooner and before the subject the teacher, now we are going to convert this second form of the verb entered into V1, because we have used the auxiliary verb did. Did and V2 cannot occur in the same clause simultaneously at the same time. Keep in your mind, once you used the auxiliary verb did, you cannot continue the second form of the verb in the same clause. We have to convert, we have to transform the second form of the verb into V1, base form of the verb. See, look at the transformation I have done. No sooner did the teacher enter. So what different changes I have made while replacing the conjunction as soon as with the conjunction no sooner? I have used the auxiliary verb did. This is the first significant step while transforming the sentence. I have written the subject of the first clause, the teacher. Then I have converted, transformed, I have made changes in the second form of the verb into first form, base form. Many students make mistake here. They use did and they also use second form of the verb, and that's wrong. You may lose marks if you use did as well as V2, second form of the verb. Your sentence will be wrong. You may lose your marks. So be careful, be alert. Once you used the auxiliary verb did here, convert V2 into V1. Don't forget it. And continue the sentence. No sooner did the teacher enter the class. So we have finished the first clause here. Now we are going to replace this comma with than. Okay. No sooner did the teacher enter the class than I have already clarified you, while replacing as soon as with no sooner, we should not make any changes in the second clause of the original sentence. The second clause of the original sentence is all the students greeted him. So it will be continued as it is. Then all the students greeted him. So this is how the conjunction as soon as is replaced with the conjunction no sooner. See, the students are expected to make the changes here and here. Once you used the auxiliary verb did, you need not to use the second form of the verb here. You have to convert this second form into base form, first V1. Okay, students, let us discuss one more example in which we have auxiliary verb in the first clause. So I write a sentence on the board. So students, if you look at this sentence that begins with a conjunction as soon as. In this sentence, the sentence begins with a conjunction as soon as. This is first clause. The water is heated. The bubbles appear on the surface is the second clause. Okay. In the previous sentence, I explained that the conjunction as soon as is used to introduce the incident that will immediately take place after previous incident has been completed. Okay. So the conjunctions like as soon as and no sooner are used to indicate, to show cause-effect relationship between two events. Heating the water is the cause, and what is the effect? The bubbles appear on the surface. So this is the effect, cause-effect relationships. Both the conjunctions indicate as soon as and no sooner. Now we are going to transform this sentence into negative sentence using another conjunction, that is no sooner. Okay. In the activity sheet, if the instruction is given below this sentence that begins with conjunction as soon as, like make it negative, either the instruction like this will be given or directly in the bracket the instruction like use no sooner ... than will be given. Okay. Now look at this sentence. I told you the sentences which begin with the conjunctions like as soon as and no sooner have always two clauses. The water is heated, this is clause 1. The bubbles appear on the surface, this is clause 2. Okay. Now look at this sentence. I am going to replace the conjunction as soon as with another conjunction no sooner. Why? Because we are going to negate this sentence. Okay. So in the place of as soon as, write down no sooner. What I told you? No sooner is always often followed by auxiliary verb available in the first clause. Okay. Now look at the first clause. The water is heated. If you observe the first clause, because now we are going to find out the auxiliary verb, because we need auxiliary verb after no sooner. We cannot continue. We have to write down auxiliary verb after the conjunction no sooner. If you read the first clause, the water is heated, we have the auxiliary verb is available there in the first clause, and that's why we are going to use the same auxiliary verb after the conjunction no sooner. No sooner is. This is very important, where students commit mistake while transforming the sentence. No sooner is. Now write down the subject. The water. No sooner is the water. We have already used the auxiliary verb is, and that's why we are not going to repeat the auxiliary verb is after the water. No sooner is the water heated. No sooner is the water heated. Replace comma with the word than. And continue the second clause without making any changes. Okay. The bubbles appear on the surface. So this is how I have transformed this affirmative sentence into negative sentence. No sooner is the water heated than the bubbles appear on the surface. Always keep in your mind the conjunction no sooner is often followed by auxiliary verb. This is very important. Auxiliary verb. Okay. Now some of the students may have doubt. In the previous sentence, I told you that V2 needs to be converted into V1, but I did not convert it in V1. The reason is that the previous sentence was active sentence. The teacher entered the class. Now this sentence is passive sentence, and that's why when the passive sentence is given in the first clause, we do not need to convert V2 into V1. Continued in the first clause. Okay, that begins with no sooner. So this is the difference between the active sentence and passive sentence. So I hope that you must have understood how to replace the conjunction as soon as with no sooner. So let me take one more example from simple present tense, where there is also we don't have directly auxiliary verb in the first clause. Okay. Students, let me explain you the example, the sentence which is from simple present tense. I write a sentence on a board. Students, let us look at this sentence. As soon as he arrives at a college, they will call him. If you observe this sentence carefully, this This is first clause. Clause number 1. He arrives at a college. This is first clause. They will call him. This is second clause. The first incident that took place is arriving of the subject, and the second incident that is going to take place after this incident is calling to him. Cause effect relationship, both the conjunctions as soon as and no sooner indicate. Okay. Now we are going to replace as soon as with no sooner. Okay. So write down the conjunction no sooner in the place of as soon as. I repeat the same statement that is very significant. The conjunction no sooner is always followed by auxiliary verb. I repetitively telling you the conjunction no sooner is often followed by auxiliary verb. Find out auxiliary verb from the original sentence. If you read the sentence, he arrives at a college. First clause. There is no auxiliary verb, isn't it? So when there is no auxiliary verb available in the first clause, what we need to do? Identify the tense of the first clause. He arrives at a college. The sentence is from simple present tense. He is subject, arrive is verb with the suffix es. Okay. When the sentence is from simple present tense, we have two options. The first is does and the second is do. In simple present tense, we use two auxiliary verbs, does and do. Then which out of two should be selected? It depends on the form of the verb. If the verb takes suffix yes or es, we are going to use a does, and if the the verb does not take suffix yes or es, then we are going to using do. If you observe the verb arrives, so the verb arrive takes the suffix yes here, and that is why we are going to use the auxiliary verb does after the conjunction no sooner. No sooner does. Look at the sentence. No sooner does he, subject. No sooner does he. Here also, as I explained you in the previous sentence, the sentence which was from simple past tense, we had used here did, and we did not continue V2 here. We converted that V2 into V1. In the same way, when we use the auxiliary verb does, we have to cancel, we have to remove this suffix s that is after the verb arrive, isn't it? So write down the plain verb, base form of the verb. No sooner does he arrive at a college. Okay. Why did I remove this suffix yes from the verb arrive? Because we used the auxiliary verb does here, and that is why we cancelled this suffix from the verb arrive. Okay. So I have done all these things according to the rules of replacing the conjunction as soon as with no sooner. Once you use auxiliary verb does, you should not attach the suffix yes or es to the verb. Okay. In the same way, replace comma with the word than, and do not make any changes in the second clause. Which is the second clause? They will call him. they will call him. See, look at the answer. No sooner does he arrive at a college than they will call him. Remember the sequence. Use first, begin the sentence with the conjunction no sooner, then use auxiliary verb. If the auxiliary verb is not available, identify the tense of the first clause. He arrives at a college. The sentence is from simple present tense. In simple present tense, we use two types of auxiliary verbs, does and do. If the verb has the suffixes like yes or es, then we use a does, and if the verb doesn't have the suffixes like yes or es, we use do. So in our first clause, the verb arrives takes the suffix s, and that's why we have decided to use the auxiliary verb does. And once you use does, you cannot attach, you cannot write down the suffix es here. We have to remove it, we have to cancel it. Okay, we have to write down the base form of the verb, plain form, and then continue. Join, connect both the clauses with the help of the word than. Okay, so this is how the conjunction as soon as is replaced with the conjunction no sooner. Okay, so the sentence that begins with the conjunction as soon as may have two types of instructions in the activity sheet. The instruction like make it negative, so don't get confused. When the sentence that begins with as soon as has the instruction make it negative, use the conjunction no sooner. Okay, and if the instruction is directly given, use no sooner than, then transform in this way. So I hope you must have understood how to replace the conjunction as soon as with the conjunction no sooner than. So in the next session, I'll explain more sentences, more examples of as soon as and no sooner than. Thank you.